There's a few conversations.
Don't tell me.
Don't tell you at all, yeah?
No, I want them sprung on me. It's
As always.
it's more fun.
Yeah.
You know, it just.
Well, yeah, there's a few here, and then there'll be more. So.
Oh, let me see what the shot is.
Have a seat. Yeah, have a seat.
No, I just want to see the shot. Okay.
Like this guy.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Look into the lens.
We're live
and
now.
we'll just press
Would you like to step in?
Yeah, sure. Disabled lift. What? It's broken.
Okay, Geoff, we've got a Norwegian DP, we've got someone studying film and TV in Sheffield, we've got a media student down in Tobago.
Okay.
Isn't that lovely? So we are out to the world.
There's quite a lot of background noise, so I'll need to, be hard to hear the questions.
Say that. So, yeah, I
And
can
if-
hear you very clearly.
Yeah. If we are live at the moment,
We are live.
right. I'm sorry we're late. It's my fault. I forgot. Well, actually, no, I've got chatting to people I know. That's just what happens here. You wander around and you bump into people you haven't seen for years. Just behind camera is Marina, who was my second AC 25 years ago, I think, on a Toyota commercial. Anyway.
Great. So I guess we can start by firstly talking about where you are.
Okay, I'm at the BSC Show in London, in the BSC Evolution. It's much bigger this year than it has been in previous years, and it's busy.
And why is it good for, I guess, people to come to expos like this?
Well, people don't just come to expos like this. I think it's a whole case of, I've said before in a Cook video that you should get round to meet people, make contacts. And that's what one of these shows is great at. You can make a lot of contacts. It's also a way of renewing contacts, of seeing new kit, and going to presentations about how new kit works.
It's great. And also, there's lots of new technology here. And, lots of new camera, lots of new kit.
There is new technology, there's new lenses, there's new lights, and updated cameras, and some actually interesting grip kit. So it's a good show to come to.
So could you explain a little bit about the kit that you've been experiencing recently? You might have been testing it yourself, or you might have seen it on the market?
Recently I've been testing the raw light OLPF for the Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro. Now I'm one of the few people in the world that hasn't had a problem with moire with it. Actually that's not true. Most people who shoot with it don't have problems with moire. It's just people who test them have problems with moire. However, I did come across one setup where it went mad. There was aliasing on a building in the background. And so when I was offered the raw light to test, I went for it.
That's right. Just got to move the mic up a bit.
Yeah.
There you go.
Spent all my life waiting for sound. So the raw light OLPF's been interesting. Hans came round and fitted it for me, which was nice of him. He's only just up the road from me anyway. But it's actually really easy to fit, and it does make a significant difference. Tiny, tiny drop in resolution, which I don't think anyone would notice. There's a 10-point shift to the green, but you can just dial that in the raw, and it's not a problem. Yeah, all right. I will say. I was going to say that it ends up looking like an Alexa. It's got that green bit that you have to take out the Alexa. Ouch. Apart from that, not a lot.
So there's been lots of conversations online in terms of actually advice of younger cinematographers to get into the industry. There's loads of younger cinematographers here today. And it'd be great to kind of get your insight as to how you got into the industry and if it's changed today.
Okay, I've been asked about advice on how to get into the industry and how I did. My career has been a total accident. I was determined to be a photographer without any doubt whatsoever, and ended up going to art school and studied photography and graphic design and got a job as a stills assistant. In the studio where Blow Up was shot. Amazing. First job I had. But I was a cocky, arrogant bastard, and I thought I could make a living on my own. As I discovered when Barclay Bank came and took the cameras back because I couldn't pay for them, perhaps I wasn't that good, and I had to earn a living. I earned a living reading electricity meters for a year and a half. Gradually got back into stills, doing concerts, which is what I'd done originally. And someone asked me, did I know anyone who could photograph a concert or film a concert for them? And going back to the cocky, arrogant, I went, yeah, I can do that. And suddenly I was a film cameraman. And everything from then on has been accident. I needed to get away from filming concerts because I was going to kill myself. For some reason, there's this strange, in the mid-70s, early 70s, there was this consumption of substances. I can't think what they were. But anyway, I had to get out of that. So to get out of it, I became a news camera in a war zone, which wasn't a very good way of stopping yourself from getting killed. But it developed from there. I went to docos. I was doing a doco about Terence Donovan on the Pirelli calendar. He liked the way I lit it. He knew the photographers I'd worked for when I was a stills assistant, and suddenly I became his lighting cameraman. And that's far too long a story to go into. But from then on, I did commercials for 30 years. And after 20 of that, I decided I should shoot drama and looked for drama and got some. But it was a struggle, and it's always been a struggle, and it always will be. And the whole thing is, just don't give up, and don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. It'll take time. I was in the business for 15 years before I shot my first commercial, and 35 years before I shot my first movie. So I learned the job.
Great. So Omar asks, what expos are worth going to in the UK this year? And I guess we can expand that by saying...
Okay. Yeah, in general, definitely go to expos. And even if you're UK based, I wouldn't limit yourself to the UK. The shows that I now do are this one, which is the BSC Show, end of January, beginning of February. I used to go to NAB, but I'm skipping that now because it's actually just got boring and not into our area. The next one I go to is Cine Gear in Los Angeles in June, and Go. I've done a presentation on this for Cook before, and if you have to go down to Piccadilly and sell your arse to get the money, do it, because you need to be there. It's well worth going in terms of looking at hardware, trends in what's happening, workshops, and just meeting people. After that, there's IBC in Amsterdam, and after that, Camera Image somewhere in Poland. We don't know where it is this year. And those are the four that I concentrate on. BV in London, no, unless you're into corporate video. Production show in London, don't know anymore, stopped going. That says enough in itself, actually. So the four that I've mentioned are the ones I would do.
Great. So Kobe asks, what's the latest advancement in video that has you most excited?
What's the latest advancement in video that makes me most excited? God. Do you know, that's really difficult because there's a lot. I get really, really excited about digital imaging. And there's lots of stuff happening. Some of it I'm NDA'd and I can't talk about, which is a pain because I'd love to tell you. But generally, everything is getting better and better. And it's just so exciting to see really good quality equipment at $2,500. Really well-designed good equipment at $5,000. If you're working at 2.5 market, you're putting bits and pieces together, and it's a little restraining times. But they're obviously the big systems that we all use for the big work. But I'm so excited by the cheaper cameras. I mentioned the Blackmagic earlier. I'm not doing a sales pitch for them. I like the Eva, I like the C200. I think those three are tremendous cameras. They're different, and if you want a traditional feeling camera, then the Blackmagic is the one to go to. And if you want one that's built like a brick shithouse, because I think a bunch of you are wimps, I'm sorry, but younger cameramen, you complain about cameras being heavy. You have no idea what heavy is. Pick up a 35 BL with a 1,000-foot mag on it and tell me that a bloody Ursa is heavy. Stop wimping out. Oh, it's too heavy, I can't hold it like this. Jesus, learn your job. Go to the gym. Sorry.
Okay, Espen asks, do you like working with a small crew or a large crew?
Hi, Espen. Do I like working with a small crew or a large crew? And I've done both. I've worked with huge crews. On one film I had 137 electricians, which is insane. I actually love working with small crews. I like working on small films with small crews. It's just so much more fun. You're more involved. I was the AC I met, I was mentioned earlier, a second AC that I worked with years ago in Sicily, who's now a DP of her own. On the web post I did about that at the time, I said how amazing it was to operate camera again. I'd forgotten how much fun it was. And that was one of the things on large crews. I've got an operator, I don't go near the camera. And it was so much fun to operate again. And now on smaller shoots, sometimes I operate, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll pull focus and my operator will, my focus puller rather, will operate. It's great fun. You're much more involved in what's happening.
So
you don't get paid as much.
So Roylan comments as himself as being a lost soul from the Philippines. He's asking, do you have any tips for documentary shoots?
Hi Royland from the Philippines. Tips for documentary shoots. Well, I spent nearly 11 years shooting 2020 ABC out of New York for ABC, and a lot of documentaries apart from that. Most were shot on 16mm, but then I switched to Betacam, Digibeta after that. Yeah, the best tip is shoot with a small sensor, for God's sake. Give yourself a chance. Don't fall victim to fashion. And I was just doing, sorry, I've got to be careful what I say now. I was doing some consulting work for a production company recently about shooting reality programs. And they wanted to shoot them 4K and they wanted to shoot large sensors. And in the end, they went with a C200, which is what I was recommending, and used face recognition on it because it gives you a chance to think about the image rather than the technology behind it. You don't have to concentrate on focus, you concentrate on framing. And with a small format, you've got that freedom, you've got much more depth of field. However, if you don't want the depth of field, then use something with autofocus or digitally assisted focus, because otherwise you're up shit creek. Other than that, on documentaries, light kit, lots of batteries, reflectors.
Great. Okay, so Daniel asks, can you talk us through your favourite happy accident that you've had on set?
Daniel, my favourite happy accident? I can't do that. My whole career has been a happy accident. God, pick one out of everything. I honestly can't. You know, quite seriously, I can't pick any out because all my career, I keep trying things, and I always have a plan B to get myself out of trouble, but I always try to do something odd, and sometimes it works incredibly well. But a specific, nah, sorry.
So someone asked, do you have any recommendations for books on lighting?
Recommendations for books on lighting? Yeah, I had one years ago, Chris Malkovich on lighting. He does one on filmmaking and one on lighting. The filmmaking one has been updated recently with David Mullen. I'm not sure about the lighting one, but I think it's a really good, basic understanding of how you light. I quite like the Blaine Brown book. The only problem I have with Blaine's book is that some of the things he recommends are very US specific and would actually get you locked up in Europe. They're considered totally unsafe here. But other than that, I'm actually putting all kinds of online bits up of taking commercials I've shot or scenes from a movie and then lighting it in a CG package. So over the next few months, have a look at CML. There'll be some stuff coming up stage by stage of how a shot's lit.
So Hal asks, do you see the worth of owning your own cine rig?
Sorry.
Just pop that into the other pocket.
This into the other, sorry, I've got to move my my radio mic into the other pocket. It's not got a phone in it. I deliberately put my phone in the, anyway. How's that? Yeah, it's better. Okay, owning your own cine rig. Difficult. Technology is changing so fast that I think unless you've got a guaranteed market for a couple of years, the only thing it's worth investing in are lenses. I'm not saying that because I'm on the Cook channel. It's just that's personal experience over the years. And having said that, the most profitable thing I've ever bought was a 1-in 12-out VGA computer adapter, because I was shooting a lot of computer commercials. I asked the production to buy it for us and they wouldn't buy anything. So I said, well, will you rent it off me for £200 a week? And they went, yeah, absolutely. So I bought it for 160 and I rented it out on 20 odd shoots. It was humongously profitable and they got really upset when they found out how much I paid for it. But as I said, I tried to get them to pay for it in the first place. So either get something that's really quirky or glass. Lights maybe, but probably not. Reflectors, yes. Soft boxes, yes. But anything relating to technology where things are changing, I would be very careful.
So from a photography standpoint, how much do you think photography influenced your style?
Right, okay, the
That's
question... From Omar. So Omar, the question was, how much do I think stills photography influenced my approach? Enormously. I never wanted to be a film cameraman. I wanted to be a stills photographer. Initially, I wanted to be a reportage photographer. I wanted to be Larry Burrows, Don McCullen, Robert Capa, Cartier-Bresson were all my heroes. But I love Bill Brandt. Absolutely, his work's stunning. And then, of course, I saw Blow Up as a 17-year-old horny teenager and saw all the models that were in a fashion studio and realized that I had to be a fashion photographer. And I started paying more attention to fashion photography. And so people like Bailey, Donovan, Guffey, Avedon, a whole bunch of them became more influential on me. I then went on to work as a DP for two of those, for Donovan and Bailey. And Duffy's son, of course, works for Cook, which is really weird. And as I said earlier, the first job I ever got was in the studio that was used as the location for Blow Up. So stills has been hugely influential on me. But I love moving a camera if it's appropriate. And I either move a camera a lot or almost not at all. I did on one film I persuaded the director to set a really good frame and let the actors act in it. Shocking idea. Let's not shoot coverage. Let's not do close-up, 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 close. Let's just let the two of them perform. And let's maybe just squeeze in a bit as we do it. But that's it. But I've got no escape, Geoff. I've got nowhere to cut to. No! You've got to do your job properly, Mike. And so have they. And so have I. And it's great. And I guess that's a stills approach as well. But certainly lighting comes from stills because that's where big soft sources came from. And, you know, that's how I light.
Great. So Ben asks, what's a good way to practice focus so I'm not totally reliant on, and I don't know this abbreviation, but it's DPAF. Something like focus perhaps.
It sounds like digitally assisted focus. Sorry, that's Ben?
Ben McKnight.
Ben McKnight, how do you practice focus? Really good question. And I guess you just get out there at 1.5, 1.4 and follow things. Get an idea of how they move, because with different lenses rotating at different speeds, you need to get an impression of how fast a lens will turn. I remember years ago I was doing a shot in Edinburgh and we were chasing the light, and I can't remember the focus puller's name. He moved to America and we were doing a 300mm shot with it on 16mm 2.8 wide open on it, and presenter walking down the street to camera on a 300. And I went, you're going to have to put marks out. And he went, you haven't got time, Geoff. And I went, well, no, but you'll never hold that. And he went, just go for it. And I couldn't believe it. He finally lost focus when he was about this far from the lens. Awesome. And that was because he knew how fast the lens, that particular lens rotated, how fast it pulled. There have been designs which have been designed to get a constant turn on them, so you don't have to change speed as you get closer, which are brilliant. But the fact of the matter is you are going to have distant things are going to be tiny bits of turn. As you get closer, you're going to have to turn faster and faster and faster and faster. And you need to learn how the different lenses respond. And then you need to just practice looking and judging how far things are, and then measuring it to check. Get a laser and go 2.5 meters. Bing! Oh shit, it's 3. You just lost focus. Best advice I've ever seen, there's a page on focus buried in the CML page from Marco Kawai. He did a whole list of hints on how to help search out focus. You can use the search box on CML. And he said that 90% of the case when you're pulling focus, if you lose it, you're going to be in front of the subject. Just stop pulling. And he's absolutely right.
So Stephen Pereira asks, what's your favourite Cooke lens, and describe how you see the Cooke look?
Haha, Stephen Pereira? What's my favourite Cooke lens and what is the Cooke look? Okay, my favourite on, we'll say on a standard 35, Super 35 frame, is the 65 as a portrait lens. I love 65mm. It just has a nice, any wider than that going into a face and the face becomes too wide, round. Any longer than that and you tend to flatten the face out a bit. It's an incredibly flattering focal length. What's the Cooke look? Pretty. It's the only way to describe it. It's a prettier look than most other lenses. And other manufacturers are trying to do similar things. And I'm not sure they should be. I love a world where lenses are different. I wouldn't use a Cooke lens on a science fiction movie. Just, wrong. Same as I wouldn't use a Master Prime on a L'Oreal commercial. Just, that's even wronger. If there's such a word as wronger. God, I'm forgetting how to speak English. It's living in Holland. Great.
So GR Media asks, do you have any advice for a soon graduating DP looking to get camera PA positions on feature films or large TV productions?
Okay, GR Media wants to know, graduating students, how do they get jobs as, well, anything really? It's bloody difficult. My advice has always been, if you want to work in the camera department, try and get a job in a rental company. Either prepping kit or just driving the van that delivers the kit. And there's 2 reasons for that. If you're prepping the kit, you're learning it. And none of us are interested in you as a grad. You think you're a DP, you're not. You're someone who should learn to make a decent cup of tea and a decent cup of coffee. You should learn the hardware. You should learn the politics of a set, which without being on a set is damn near impossible to do. However, if you're prepping kit, you meet lots of ACs. You don't meet DPs, you meet lots of ACs. And ACs will be looking for second ACs because the one they're working with is moving on, or they might know of a job going with a trainee position. That's a good way on. And a lot of people I know who've done really well have gone that route. The other route is van driver. And I've told this story again and again, but when I was shooting music videos a lot at a studio in London, we always overran. And there were 2 drivers came to pick up kit, and they would have to sit and wait. We'd pay waiting time for these. One of the drivers sat in the cab reading a paper. One of them came on the floor, came into the camera department, introduced himself, asked if he could do anything. Can I get anyone a cup of coffee? Is there anything else I can do? Can I help you carry a box? Whatever. He then got offered a job as a trainee, and he's now a camera operator. You have to get into the business to be noticed, to get on. How you get in is different for everyone. Some people get in because they went to art school or film school with someone who becomes a successful director and they decide to take them along with them. I think that's a really stupid thing for a director to do because it's then available to him to hire the best DPs in the world. And he should do that because it'll make him look better rather than a student he worked with. However, take any job you can.
David Sklubel asks, hi Geoff, I'm a beginner shooting corporate work / social media ads. What skills should I focus on to improve my look and style when filming?
Okay. Sorry, the name was
David Sklubel.
David Scrubel? Sklubel. Sorry, we're getting passed backwards and forwards. Doing corporate work, what should you concentrate on to improve? Okay, now I shot a lot of corporate work a long time ago, and it moved on into bigger corporate work, and some of the nicest, most fun stuff I've done has been corporate in the past. So that's not a market that should be ignored. The same as you would do for anything. Improve your lighting, improve your framing. Try and figure out, in a corporate thing, you're generally trying to sell something. Try and figure out what you're trying to sell and help them sell it. Because that's your job. You're not there to make material for your show reel. You're there to flog them. And the more you get noticed as being good at doing that, the more work you'll get. And the more work you get, the more work you'll get.
Hal asks, will digital sensors ever reach the beauty of Jack Cardiff's command of colour and the glory days of Technicolor itself?
Hal asks, will digital sensors ever get as good as Jack Cardiff's work? The question's longer than that, but that's... do you know, I used to bump into Billy Williams regularly, Billy Williams, BSC, Oscar winner, and he knew I was doing lots of testing of digital, and he asked me one question. Got skin tones right yet, Geoff? I'd say, got skin tones right yet, Geoff? No, Billy. You got skin tones right yet? No, Billy. I think the answer is yes now, actually. And I remember seeing an Arri 65 demo on a big 4K monitor, and it's just faces. It's just people from the Arri factory, from the sales office, from the building in Munich. Every different skin tone imaginable, every different age. And they look amazing. They look incredible. So we got the skin tones sorted. I think the rest of it is down to the DP. And I think there's far too much emphasis put on hardware. I think most of the image comes from there and there. And forget the hardware, or as I have said before, fuck the numbers. The technology doesn't matter. You matter. What you do to the image matters. Make good pictures, and that's all that matters.
So Showman Media asks a technical question. Any advice for one person shooting a gimbal moving shot on a manual lens and changing focus?
Oh, right, that's Showman Media. Any advice for someone shooting on a gimbal mount with a fixed lens, and how do you cope with focus? You get yourself a C200, you put it on face tracking with an EF mount lens, or a C300 on face tracking, and you're fine. Anything else, there's a technical phrase for that, you're fucked. Sorry, I wish I could be more helpful, but you can't. As a one-man band, you have to use the technology that works for you. And I have tried and tried and tried to get manufacturers to work more with autofocus or with digitally assisted focus, because it can work really well when it works. And as everyone knows, I've shot an entire movie using it. Down there will be a huge resistance to it. I got death stares at an ASC breakfast when I was talking about it. I've been threatened by a union in America to shut up and stop talking about it. I'm not going to. It's the way to go. If you're shooting as a one-man band, use everything you can.
Hesman asks, have you found yourself using less light equipment on set now than back in the days?
Hesman, am I using less light equipment? Yeah, absolutely. A lot less. I mean, you know, when I started, 200 was fast. Well, I shot most of my commercials on 500 ISO film, but rated at 320, because that's where it worked. Now 800 is commonplace. 2500 isn't a problem on most high-end cameras. That doesn't mean you don't need lighting. That just means you light differently. You use smaller units, you use more reflectors, you use more black to stop light from coming in. So you can control what there is there. But that lets you use battery-powered lights, so you don't have to run cables. My God, was that a revelation to me. 3 years ago, when I shot my first film using fairly large battery-powered LEDs, it just blew me away. It was amazing. Color, on the other hand, wasn't wonderful. 4 years ago, it wasn't wonderful. Shot one 2 years ago using battery-powered LEDs. It was much better. And just the joy of not having to run cables, it's great. Take the technology and run with it.
Geoff, so how important does depth of field mean to you if we can get great video feature like 10-bit in 422 in micro four thirds? So is it better to choose it than full frame with 420?
Okay, how important?
That's from Yash.
Yash, hi. How important is depth of field to me? Is it better to get a full frame sensor with no depth of field, or a mini 3/4 with lots of depth of field? I think this is the area at the moment that is the most riddled with bullshit. If you know what you're doing, you can get minimal depth of field on small sensors. And as far as all the stories about roundness and image wrapping around with larger sensors, it's just crap. It's maths. It's simple maths. So if you're shooting on Super 35 sensor and you want to use a 16mm size sensor, use half the focal length. It's dead easy. If you want the same depth of field you had on Super 35, you open it up 2 stops. Next problem? It isn't a problem. It's really easy. Just learn your job. Sorry, that wasn't aimed at you as an attack. It's just you need to learn your job. You need to understand how things work. And there is so much confusion, uncertainty, disinformation out there. The question to ask yourself all the time is, what is this person trying to sell me? That's always my approach. Follow the money.
Someone asks, does humidity affect the image?
Questions come in, does humidity affect the image? Not the image, but it can wreck lenses really badly. And especially if you're in cold conditions, you can get ice forming between elements. Has that happened to me? No. But has it happened to other people shooting next to me? Yes. Humidity used to be more of a problem when we had tape recorders. I remember having BVU 110 and the tape wrapped around the heads of it when I went into a swimming pool because of the humidity. That's not a problem you've got. Does it affect the image? No, it affects the atmosphere, and the atmosphere affects the image. But that's a question of what's hanging in the air. So, you know, humidity, yes, smoke, yes, it's all related.
Ben asks a question about the C100. He's trying to map the stops of the C100 to false colour on the small HD focus. He doesn't know where to start. Do you know anything about
that? Hi. Okay, so Ben, trying to map the false colour on a recorder to the C100. How do you do it? Okay. Which recorder? Small HD. Okay, you get the Small HD manual and you find out where they map which colours to. I know where the Blackmagic does, because I've just been doing a lot of tests on that for some strange reason. So what I did was I got a Kodak grayscale and I lit it to where mid-tone was, and I made sure the green showed at mid-level. I then opened up a stop because I know that's where the next colour band is, and I checked that that actually showed what it was. It was close. And that's basically all you have to do. Just expose the stops that are different to the colour grades to figure out where they're going to be with a meter.
Great. So someone from Australia,
I know that's a simplistic reply, but it is actually quite simple.
Someone from Australia called Curly Head Jew asks, he lives in Australia and there's not many feature film shot, especially outside Sydney. So do you have any recommendations for somebody 2-3 years out of film school to get into the industry?
Hi, Curly from Sydney. Not many films shot in Oz. how do you get into the business 2 to 3 years out of film school? You should already be in the business. But apart from that admonition, I haven't got anything else to say on top of what I already said. I think there's quite a lot of TV series being shot in Oz. I'm certainly watching a lot of Australian TV shows on Netflix. Get in touch with the ACS. Go into the office in Sydney. They're actually really nice people, and I'm not saying that because I'm an honorary member of the ACS. They are actually really nice, helpful people. Contact them, ask them for advice. All the ones I've met would be very, very willing to help. And it's their annual show in April, May. Go to that.
So Daniel asks, he shoots lots of corporate films and wants to make the move to commercials. You've shot both, so do you have any advice to make the move?
Hi Daniel, how do you make the move from corporate to commercials? It's difficult. The best solution for you is find a director who's making the move and tag along with him. And that's surprisingly often the route people follow changing. Other than that, try and edit your corporate work into commercials. So you've got a reel that looks something like a commercial reel. And then start going to the small commercial companies. I don't know who they are now, but certainly when I lived in the UK and was working out the UK, there were regional companies, Bristol, Manchester, Birmingham, and it was worth going to them because you stood a chance, because the serious cameraman from London went, ew, we don't do that, which was bloody stupid of them because I did some great work in Manchester as a result.
So Jonah from the States asks, is there any readings on cinematography that you'd recommend? Or anything that is inspired you?
Hi Jolo, any reading on cinematography I'd recommend? My God, I need to put up a still of my bookshelf now. It goes on and on and on. Basically anything that's written about cinematography I've got. Which ones? I would get the... See, I'm suffering Alzheimer's. I'm trying to remember the names of things. Benjamin B did a collection of interviews, and I can't remember what it's called.
What's his name?
Benjamin B. He writes for American Cinematographer, and it's a collection of the interviews he did for American Cinematographer, where cinematographers went back and lit scenes from a movie. Film book, yeah. And it's brilliant because you get all the spot readings, you get the descriptions of how it's done, and it's a really good way to understand lighting. I mean, that's the number one for me. Cameras generally, the whole approach. There are lots and lots and lots. I've already mentioned Malkovich. But I've loved reading some of the books about movies. The Magic Hour, Jack Cardiff, Freddie Young's book, whatever it was called, I can't remember. I read everything because I enjoy it. And I read ones by producers and directors as well, less so. Funnily enough, I don't read many actors' books.
So Ollie asks, what's your favourite go-tos or favourite diffusion fabric?
Ollie, hi. What's my favourite diffusion fabric? It's a good question. There's one you can get from the Rag Place and the DOP Choice handle in Europe, which is called Magic Diffusion, I think. Really nice. Really, really, really nice. Otherwise, I'll go back to the Roscoe plastic one, which I think is Roscoe Soft. It's basically a big shower curtain. Or shower curtain.
So Labourer 11 Media says, have you used the new Blackmagic Pocket 4K? What's your opinion about the camera?
Okay, 11 Media, I've missed the first part of it. Have I used the Pocket 4K Blackmagic? The answer is no, I haven't yet. I loved the old one. I thought it was a really cool camera. And from everyone I've spoken to, in fact, there's a gaffer friend of mine who's just sitting over there who has one in his bag. with a cage on it. Yeah, they're great.
Someone asks, how do we convince producers that renting higher quality lenses is a cost-effective thing to do in the long run?
Ooh, how do you convince producers that hiring better quality lenses is a better thing in the long run? Okay, the best argument is you're going to look better. Your work is going to look better as a producer. If your work looks better as a producer, more people will come looking for you. It's as simple as that.
So AG asks, do you think that you can beat Shane Herbert in a bare-knuckle boxing match?
Can I beat Shane Herbert in a bare-knuckle boxing match? Not a chance in hell. Shane's children can beat me in a bare-knuckle boxing match. You're asking someone who's had his arse removed, has a plastic bag attached to his front to shit on, who's had a chunk of his liver removed, and who's having a fifth of his lung removed next week. Not a chance in hell.
Okay, cool. So we're coming up to 2:30 now.
Right.
We should probably wrap up. So
Yeah,
if there's
wrap up whatever you want.
anything-
Sorry, that last bit was probably the way to finish. And I will be here next year, contrary to a lot of people's wishes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very
Cheers.
much.
Thank you, Geoff. That was hysterical. Right, are we all off? Are we signed off? Okay.
I won't walk off with the mic on.